This is Erewhon, the most expensive grocery store in the world. But it is so much more than that. It's a status symbol, a cultural phenomenon, and a place where celebrities go and spend more on a smoothie than most people spend on dinner. While other luxury grocers like Whole Foods might charge you a premium, Erewhon somehow convinced an enclave of Los Angeles that purchases like a single $20 Japanese strawberry or $40 sea moss shell, whatever the that is, are reasonable purchases. And people aren't just willing to pay, they are lining up to pay. The question is, why? What's the business strategy that turned a tiny health store into LA's most exclusive food spot? Because as fun as it is to poke fun at some of this stuff, I figure there's gotta be more to it than overpriced produce and celebrity spotting. So guess what? I dug into it. And today we're investigating how Erewhon created a business model that's part grocery store, part venture capital firm for wellness brands, and part social club for the wellness elite. Let's discuss. It's actually really good. Now, before we get into the business strategy, which is super interesting and a little surprising, I'm not here to yank your chain, so we're gonna start with the Erewhon experience. You walk in and are greeted off to the side here with a smoothie bar, lots of prepared food, and a delicious hot food bar. The overall aesthetic feels very open and airy. We have light wood finishes, minimal but luxurious design elements like the light fixtures, premium food displays. Bottom line, it's clean, it's extremely orderly, nothing is out of place, and it feels healthy. I feel like I'm in a health food store. Good job, Erewhon. But if you think you're gonna fill up your entire fridge at a reasonable price, you're sorely mistaken. Let's look at some of the most unique products. Cut up dragon fruit for $25. Fancy balsamic Saba dressing for $50. Some plant protein powder for $60. That's not that crazy, mine's like 60. Raw Manuka honey for $70. $32 Erewhon socks. And you already saw the $20 Hailey Bieber smoothie out in the parking lot, alongside the other celebrity design smoothie options, all coming in at about $20. And then of course, the hot food bar. Profit margins on these puppies are nice and high, but more on that later. Some of the most popular items include the mac and cheese and the sushi sandwich. First reaction, first sip. $20 smoothie, which I would never buy, except for a video. Cheers to you guys. Holy shit, it's really good. That's not even a fake reaction, try it. That's one of the best things I've had. It's like coconutty and delicious. This is my filmer for the day, by the way. She also birthed me. It's good, huh?
Oh, wow.
I know. It's more coconutty than I expected. Solid. As for the customer experience, well, similar to Trader Joe's, these store footprints are pretty small. It gets pretty crowded in here. And remember, we're in LA, so most people are driving here. They're not pulling up on foot like I do in New York, which also means the parking lot gets pretty crowded with luxury cars. And the staff is super friendly and knowledgeable for product recommendations. Now to wrap this section up before diving into the interesting business model, I should mention that unlike the sea moss shell and adaptogenic mushrooms, there actually are a decent amount of items here that are normal and not exorbitantly expensive. You'll see brands that you recognize at other non-luxury grocery stores like Faye yogurt, Siggy's yogurt, Kerrygold butter I saw, Driscoll's berries, and a lot of well-known protein bars. Plus just some things that are kind of reasonably priced, like a lot of fun drinks, as long as they meet the Erewhon standard of ingredients, which we'll talk more about in a bit. However, most of the stuff here is more expensive when you compare it to competing grocers like Whole Foods. So what exactly are you paying for at Erewhon, and why are so many people willing to spend $300 or more on a single grocery run? Let's look into the founding principles of Erewhon and the business model today. Beginning with Erewhon's origin, I knew that it had Japanese roots before writing the script, but I didn't know the specifics, so here's the rundown. It was founded in 1966 by husband and wife Michio and Aveline Kushi, who emigrated to the US from Japan about 20 years earlier. The name Erewhon was derived from an 1872 satirical novel by Samuel Butler, which was about a utopia in which people were responsible for their own health and prosecuted for the crime of being ill. Obviously, this place doesn't exist. It's a nowhere place. And fun fact, Erewhon is an anagram of the word nowhere. And this is interesting. The original Erewhon health food market was based on a Japanese macrobiotic diet. And this is all about balancing the supposed yin and yang elements of food and cookware, which in practice all comes down to reducing animal products, eating locally grown food that's in season, and consuming meals in moderation. Erewhon then expanded to Los Angeles in the 70s, filed for bankruptcy in '81, and the chain was then purchased by entrepreneur Tony Antochi in 2011. Big Tony. No, nothing. Since Tony took over, Erewhon has expanded to 1 location to now 10 locations across LA. And Erewhon is looking to expand to different cities. More on that later. So that's the interesting origin and ownership change. But now let's take a look at the store's product strategy and the store economics. Fun fact, the product strategy was actually my favorite part to learn about when doing my research for this video. It's actually really cool. So let's discuss. You've probably deduced by now that Erewhon has a very strict standard for the items that it decides to sell, but you probably didn't guess that it was this strict. No refined sugars, no high fructose corn syrup, no artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. All produce is organic, all dairy is grass-fed, all meat is grass-fed and free-range, 0 GMOs, you get the idea. And this has been dubbed the Erewhon Standard, and they do not make compromises. I checked. But here's what I find the most fascinating. Erewhon has effectively become an incubator for up-and-coming health and wellness brands. When a brand approaches Erewhon, they face a vetting process that includes more than 100 different criteria, and every single ingredient is scrutinized. Products routinely get rejected for containing certain ingredients that most people wouldn't think twice about. Even certain natural flavors don't make the cut. Another really cool part, Erewhon often works directly with the brands to reformulate products specifically for their stores. So imagine being a small health food startup and hearing from Erewhon, we love your concept, but these specific 3 ingredients gotta go. Some brands even spend 6 to 12 months reformulating their products just to fit the Erewhon standard. And even after being accepted, the products remain on probation. If they don't sell well enough, they're out. But for these brands, it seems like it's all worth it, because once you get that Erewhon stamp of approval, other retailers start calling. Industry insiders actually call this the Erewhon effect, which is why so many emerging health brands try to launch exclusively at Erewhon first. From a business perspective, what Erewhon has created is brilliant. It's a 2-sided marketplace where they curate brands for their consumers who trust their judgment, while offering those brands access to their tastemaker audience. This isn't just a grocery store, it's basically a startup accelerator for kombucha and adaptogenic mushroom powders. Jokes aside, this is a big reason why a lot of people are down to dish out at Erewhon instead of going to Whole Foods. Erewhon, silly as it might sound, is on the cutting edge of these trends. They're first movers, and they're not just selling you food, they're selling you first access to the next big thing in health. So if you're part of that target demographic that's wealthy, health conscious, trend aware, you could see how Erewhon is kind of the place to go. Now, let's talk numbers. You know I'm not going to analyze this bad boy without going over some store economics. So as I mentioned, Erewhon's footprints are pretty small, at about 10 to 15,000 square feet, compared to traditional grocers at about 45,000 square feet. The amount of SKUs that it carries is not publicly available, but you can tell that it's a lot fewer than traditional grocers at 30,000 or more, and it's very tightly curated. So it's a lot like our friends at Trader Joe's, with very picky product selection in smaller storefronts. Here's where it's different. The average transaction size at Erewhon is between $85 and $100, compared to $40 at Whole Foods. Not only that, the profit margins are pretty nice and juicy compared to other grocers. For prepared food and beverages specifically, which account for almost half, 40 to 50% of Erewhon's sales, profit margins are about 35% compared to industry average of about 12%. So Erewhon is basically half restaurant, half grocer. And finally, given all that we know about Erewhon, it's no surprise that all 10 locations are in ultra premium neighborhoods of Los Angeles. Beverly Hills, Studio City, Silver Lake, Pacific Palisades, Santa Monica, Venice, Calabasas, West Hollywood, Culver City, and Pasadena. And these ultra premium locations, of course, are aiming for a very specific target audience. Let's discuss. The core Erewhon customer. Imagine that friend who casually brings up their wellness journey in every single convo, has 8-pack abs, drinks from coconuts in Bali, has at least 3 different non-dairy milks in their fridge, 25 to 45 years old, household income well over $150,000, very health conscious and trend aware, they're active on social media, maybe an entertainment industry professional or a celebrity influencer. That's your guy. The way that Trader Joe's gets social media coverage for its kind of weird and quirky products, Erewhon gets it for its extremely high prices and very, very niche health-focused products. Plus, Erewhon has the added element of being only in LA, the entertainment capital of the world. So, regular celebrity sightings include the Kardashians, Miley Cyrus, Andrew Garfield, Jake Gyllenhaal. Last time I was here, I was in line directly next to David Dobrik. I don't see any in here today though, besides this up-and-coming YouTuber who likes to talk about grocery stores that she finds interesting. Anyway, to target these customers, naturally, Erewhon only finds itself in these ultra-premium locations. But as always, there is more to it than it just being expensive food for celebrities. There is a value proposition alignment going on, where Erewhon leverages health as luxury positioning, using wellness signaling and clean eating as a status symbol, which it kind of is. So this is a whole other rabbit hole that I went down in my research, the economics of food access in the US. According to the latest numbers from the US Department of Agriculture, there are about 40 million Americans in the US that live in designated food deserts, which are areas where it's either difficult or impossible to have access to affordable, healthy food. And different retailers have approached this market reality differently. Some, like Erewhon, focus exclusively in the premium segment, while others, like Kroger's or Walmart, have developed models that serve a broader demographic range. So there is a distinct market segmentation, and Erewhon certainly plays within the premium segment exceptionally well. But in some ways, it does feel wrong that healthy food is a status symbol when it is in reality out of reach for so many people. At the same time, I don't think it's Erewhon's responsibility to fix that. I think its very existence is perfectly fine. But yeah, it's a tricky one. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. So we know the prices are high, but are they justified? Well, it's subjective. On one hand, Erewhon sources from small batch producers with local and beyond organic requirements, and it has limited distribution channels. So naturally, that's gonna cost, and a lot of that cost gets passed down to the consumer. On the other hand, at some point, it kind of feels like robbery, like this was $20. But there's clearly a market for it, and there's something to be said for the psychology behind premium pricing. It adds a layer of perceived value, so whether or not this fresh pressed elderberry syrup from Erewhon is higher quality than an elderberry syrup that you might find at Whole Foods, you probably subconsciously assume that it is because it's more expensive. This health as a status symbol and exclusivity is reinforced through these higher prices. My personal take is through a bit more of an objective lens. So even if I can't justify myself to buy this $22 brown butter something because my perceived value of this brown butter something does not outweigh how much I value $22. I do think the prices are justified in the sense that there's obviously a market equilibrium happening here where supply is meeting demand, so I don't fault Erewhon for setting these prices. I'm a businesswoman. At the same time, I do care about there being healthy, affordable food. So again, a little tricky and hard to say a definitive yes or no to the prices being justified. Now, I find this section particularly interesting for Erewhon, the future of the store. Beginning with growth plans, Erewhon is planning on expanding to other markets, including New York City and Miami. In doing so, yes, it could target high-income and health-conscious zip codes, but it would also run some huge risks. First of all, maintaining exclusivity while scaling. If you open up a whole bunch of new locations, it just kind of becomes less cool and exclusive. That's obvious psychology. What I'm more curious about is how would it fare in those cities? Sure, you have the expensive zip codes and health-conscious population, but what would Erewhon's distribution look like? Erewhon is known to source locally, and California alone produces 1/3 of the vegetables and 2/3 of the fruits and nuts in the US. Of course, you can ship things across the country, but Erewhon's supply chain starts looking a lot different if it opens up on the East Coast. And as someone born and raised in Los Angeles and living in New York for the last 4 years, I feel uniquely equipped to weigh in on this. I don't think Erewhon would work as well in New York. There, I said it. Yes, I could see a location opening up in Williamsburg or somewhere in Manhattan and it technically being successful, but the core audience for Erewhon just feels so distinctly LA. The healthy scene here is different than the healthy scene in New York. It's hard to explain, but in LA, wellness here feels more like a lifestyle statement. Looking good, feeling good, living your best life. In New York, it feels more about optimization and efficiency, biohacking your way to surviving the city's intensity. Huge generalization, but that's how I feel. Now, would I still be happy if one opened up in New York? Of course. More broadly, a challenge that Erewhon and other luxury grocers face is vulnerability during an economic downturn. So turning to microeconomics for a second, food as a whole is generally considered an inelastic good, meaning that changes in price will not drastically affect consumer demand. makes sense. We always need food, we're always going to need to buy it. This is not the case for luxury food. When people need to save some cash during an economic recession, even Erewhon shoppers might turn to Whole Foods, or in LA specifically, Bristol Farms or Gelson's, which also have that healthy luxury positioning but with slightly lower prices. Then there are other industry trends impacting Erewhon, like increasing scrutiny of health claims. Is sea moss gel actually delivering the health benefits that it promises? Let's see the research. There's also greater democratization of health products going on, where more affordable retailers like Amazon and Target are opening their own clean beauty and health and wellness brands at a fraction of the cost. So Erewhon will really need to stay ahead of the curve to maintain their first mover image in the space. However, as it stands, as far as I see it, Erewhon is seriously winning in a couple key areas. A dual market dynamic for up and coming brands and customers who know that any product in that store is going to uphold the Erewhon standard. The strong celebrity association and cultural cachet, and at the heart of it, the impressively high bar of health metrics that Erewhon upholds when deciding what products to stock on its shelves. Now, whether or not the prices that they charge in return feel justified to you, I would still say that the grocer is doing a few things right. Question for you, do you think it's a total ripoff and a huge gimmick, or do you think it's a cool business? Let me know in the comments. Also let me know if you like these business cases, because I like researching them, I like writing them, I have a fun time making them, so let me know if you want more. And until next time, Turtle out. I'm gonna do my you know?
Yeah.
I kind of like the dual Porsches. Hey, if you like this video, I can assure you'll probably also like this one. Take a gander. Okay, bye.